Hi, and welcome to the first Planet IT Talking Heads. This is a open forum where people from Planet IT, like ourselves, and experts in the field are going to join us and have an open discussion about the threats we're seeing, the changing landscape of IT, and all things and everything technology. Joining me today, I have Adam and Maciej. Adam, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello there, my name's Adam Harrison. I'm a technical architect for Planet IT. My expertise, as you can see behind me, are security and Azure. So anything along those topics, happy to talk about.
And Maciej, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Maciej Owsiany. I work as a part of architectural team for Planet IT. 10 years experience in the field, pretty much touching, seen everything in terms of IT. So yeah, very happy to be here.
Thanks, guys. And for those of you who don't know, I'm James Dell, and I head up the architecture team at Planet IT. So today, we're going to talk around threat actors, kind of the current risks that we're seeing, and more precisely, I suppose, the new and kind of increased amount of attacks we're seeing. So something that I know that we'll all be able to touch on is the fact that the the threats that the pandemic brought on from an IT point of view haven't really died off. We're seeing a lot more, people trying to find their ways into systems. And I suppose as that edge bleeds away, really, in terms of we no longer have that perimeter of the office being the secure location, we're starting to see that maybe more businesses are being hit than they should be, and maybe talk about why that is and some of the things that people should be doing. So I suppose, Adam, to you, I suppose, what have you been seeing? As you mentioned, it's like you're kind of that, security is your baby. What have you been seeing, really?
I think as we know with the pandemic and everything, everyone's been working from home. And since like post lockdown times where we kind of are now, I notice all three of us are actually working from home, so that we've obviously kept some of that mentality of remote working, which is brilliant for for users. You get to work in your own space, and that can have its own productivity benefits. The difficulty with that is with remote working, you have to use different solutions to access your company data. So I guess whether that be your VPN or even 365. And what we're seeing a lot of is the phishing attacks, specifically for Microsoft 365. And if anyone watching this has seen any of our previous webinars, we actually did one with our security partner where they showed us in real time how easy it is to compromise someone's 365 account. So that's one of the major things we've been seeing, not just phishing attacks, but actually credential scraping. So where a user will use the same credentials for 365 that they do to log into, I don't know, Yahoo or some other online site that happens to be compromised, and you get these bots that are just trying to access people's accounts. So yeah, we're seeing that quite a lot. Other things being, of course, ransomware attacks, where people click on a link in an email, and it's worth noting that most of these attacks come in the form of an email.
Yeah.
So whether that be a link in an email or whether it be a malicious attachment, I mean, that's the classic way, isn't it, of spreading viruses by email. But people have got cleverer with your phishing attacks. So I mean, that's ultimately what we're seeing a lot of at the moment.
And I think the one thing that I've noticed that's changed a lot is that it used to be the credential harvesting was done a little bit on luck. The pages always looked a bit naff. You could tell they weren't a 365 page. And certainly maybe the attacks that are hitting end users at home, they still look that way. But the ones that are targeted attacks, maybe state funded, maybe driven by other kind of groups, they very much look like the 365 page. They're spending the time on making sure that page looks and feels right, so that as a user, if you've already made the mistake of clicking that link, you're already into a world of pain. And I know that we've seen one recently where an organization's been attacked, and actually that page they went to, if you were given two pages side by side and you are not someone who works in web design or marketing, or someone like us who does this all day, will go, yeah, they're pretty much the same. It may be a browser problem, that font's slightly wrong, but ultimately it's too late at that point. Whereas 5 years ago, every page you saw was this janky page where the boxes didn't line up, and maybe on a mobile it didn't even open properly. So you kind of went, well, that's not Microsoft. But now it's definitely a different world, and I think that's means that users are so much easier caught out, and maybe that they're not doing the protection on the front end. The training your users, the making sure the users aren't even clicking that link, because ultimately, if they've clicked the link, we've lost the battle, haven't we?
Yeah, so one thing that I'm talking to customers about, and with the greatest of respect to end users, that your end user is always going to be the weak link in the chain. You can have your email security gateway that's going to filter out potentially malicious or impersonation emails. You can have your Sophos or your endpoint security that will filter out your email attachments and bad things. But to stop someone from clicking a link that goes to a legitimate looking website and typing in their credentials for an account that they have, that's a real battle. And just to touch on what James said about, before the websites didn't look professional, I think there's a clear kind of before and after COVID. So before it was like, as James said, people chancing their luck. It didn't really look right. You could tell that it was a fake website. Whereas post-pandemic lockdowns, you can see that this is absolutely something that's been worked on. Whether it be, as James said, your state-sponsored threat actors or whatever, So I think the key to this and the end goal is really to have your end users knowledgeable enough to know, okay, well, do you know what? This site does look good, but I wasn't expecting that email. And actually that URL in the address bar, that isn't actually Microsoft. So little things like that. And I think that's something that every business really needs to tackle. Maciej, do you have anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, so exactly what you said, Adam. I think the most important thing is just educating users, educating end users, and educating companies what they should click on and what they should not click on. I mean, just an example that I've had a few years ago with a client that actually click on the link, and then I remember there was my days when I used to work on a help desk. I've called them, and there was a link which looked like a OneDrive sort of link. They've clicked on it. And then when I called them, the first thing that I've asked, I said, do you have OneDrive? And they said no. And then I've asked them, yeah, you should always sort of ask yourself whether something that you're clicking on it's something that you own, because usually, as we know, bad actors they're just trying to engage you in something that is not real, or that is something that is clickable for you. And it looks like something that is interesting, and we usually just quickly just click on it, and then we're in a bad situation where we actually giving our credentials to those to those bad actors. So that's pretty much it. But I think educating end users and people in the companies are quite important, and loads of those products that we're proposing are have either campaigns or training videos or stuff like that. So it's really important.
Yeah, that Maciej, that's a really interesting point. Just to to piggyback on something you just said about the user not even having a OneDrive account, and I've certainly seen it before where someone has put their 365 credentials into something, and they're like, oh no, I don't actually have that account. Well, it just goes to show how autonomous users tend to be. They get an email, they click a link, they'll put their credentials in without even really giving it a second thought. So just to kind of reinforce the education side of things, that's something that companies and businesses really need to push on.
Yeah, no, and I was going to tie exactly into what you're saying there, which is there's always been this thing about, well, I don't want to spend money on training people. People should know. Well, the truth is people don't know, and people are getting caught with this all the time. And the problem is, once you get caught once, whether that's a major attack or a minor attack that follows, they know they can get that user. That user then becomes ultimately a target for anyone who's looking to find someone that they want to hit with a ransomware attack, because that user isn't very good at spotting malicious or phishing attacks. They just go, oh yeah, that's my details. And today it may be 365, but the ones that worry me the most is the ones where they're simulating banking pages and they are getting users to essentially provide credentials for that. Now, as a business, your finance team will probably be one of the weaker links in your organization because they're the people who naturally have this distance from IT where they maybe don't want to be involved with that kind of training, or maybe haven't naturally been open to that many attacks previously, because the world of banking's changed a lot in the last 10 years, as is every industry. So I think it's very important that phishing isn't something that's done in isolation. It's not just your IT guys. You should be training everybody, but not just training them today. You should be training them tomorrow and the next week and the next month and over the next year, because this is a moving goalpost. As Adam mentioned about everything that's happened since COVID, if I gave you a phishing simulation training program in 2019, it's very different to what I'm doing with you today when I'm talking about mitigating risks and threats. We're not in that same space that we were all those years ago. And I think it's very important that people, when you're looking at the allocation of your budgets and where you're spending money, you think about what protects you. And there's products out there that do this training to no money on top of what you're already spending. So why would you, be that concerned about it? If it costs you £1 a user a month, is it worth saving a £10,000 loss when your email get compromised? Probably.
And the rest. £10,000 is very conservative, isn't it? But that's the balance, isn't it? Sorry, Maciej, on you go.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna add to what James just said, and also if you don't have a right product in place, usually the users which are most vulnerable, by the time that they've noticed there's something wrong, or someone hacked into their identity, stole their emails, those hackers, bad actors already have their contact list. They already have a history of emails. They probably inject some rules in the emails. So by the time that they will notice that something's wrong, that may be like day or 2 days after, and yeah, the people on the other side, they already have many credentials that they can use, or many emails that they can use, and yeah, that's how that's how the story goes basically, and everything starts from there. And after 2 days, they're usually calling IT department and they're saying, I have a feeling that my email has been hacked, but that may be a little bit too late, and there's lots of things to be unrolled, and the question is, like you said, James, is it worth spending additional, £1 or £2 per user? Of course it is, because that will prevent many things that may happen after that. So yeah, simple as this.
No, definitely. And I think one of the cases that was in the press recently was around solicitors and firms involved in house transactions being hit. And what they were doing is simply the 365 attack we all know about. Come in, compromise a user, get into their emails, and then just start sitting in the middle and going, every time an email goes out saying you need to pay X amount of deposit to your financial advisor or whatever, just change the bank details. I think the case that I saw online was something in like £200,000 where they managed to get in a day. And the problem is that money gets transferred into an account, gets transferred out of that account, will get moved into PayPal, Bitcoin, whatever they do. At that point, the money's never coming back. And yes, you may get it back via insurance, but ultimately, your bank will say to you, well, you transferred that money to an account. They ask you if it's the right account. You went, yeah, that's all sounds fine. And they processed it through. So it very much is about being aware and on the ball, and not just in work. Let's be honest, doing this at home as well. The amount of phishing emails I get coming into my personal email account, like if you just were a little bit lacking when you click that button and you went, oh yeah, it looks right, and click it, you could put yourself into a massive risk. So take the time, put that protection in place. I think that's the one thing that maybe in the security landscape is, for me, massively changing. Whereas in the past we'd be talking about new technology for endpoint protection, ransomware protection, we're talking about better firewalling or next generation UTMs. What we're talking about at the moment is that the ultimate thing is your human firewall. That one person can be as much risk as the hundreds of thousands of pounds you spend on security. If you get one person that's a little bit naive, then we're all in trouble.
Yeah. And that's why I think we probably all agree that the human is the weakest link in entire organization. I mean, that's just a fact. So again, lots of those products that we recommend have that ability to learn users, how to spot those links, or how to spot the URLs which doesn't look legit, or just stuff like that. So yeah, just to eliminate that weakest link, or at least what's the word?
Mitigate
the weakest link, exactly.
Just to go back on something that James said, in terms of cyber insurance, you may not get that back, because cyber insurance companies now are demanding as a prerequisite before they even touch you that you have cyber awareness training. One of our fully managed customers recently went through it, where we had to put it in place. Don't get me wrong, very happy that we got them on it, because as we're talking about, it's something that every business needs, but their cyber insurance provider would not touch them if they didn't have it. So it's just worth mentioning in that point that cyber insurance companies are becoming more strict in their requirements, and cyber awareness training is one of the requirements. And I can only see that kind of snowballing to a point where everyone will require it.
Now let's talk about that. Ultimately, cyber insurance and the requirement for certification is becoming a massive part of what we're seeing pushed at the moment, off the back of the increased threats and the change in the landscape. Talking about Cyber Essentials, Cyber Essentials Plus, pen testing, vulnerability scanning, that's getting driven by an industry outside of IT. That's getting driven by insurance. I suppose it'd be good to talk about your experiences of what we're seeing and what people are asking you for, what you're getting asked for by your clients, and really where we think this is leading, because I think it kind of is a bit of an untapped problem that we're kind of seeing bubble to one side, being pushed by an industry outside of IT.
Yeah, I think it's like I said a minute ago, the cyber insurance companies are expecting cyber awareness training to be in place, because that's a mitigation for the phishing threat that we discussed. But also there's other things that, like an EDR solution. Now, I mean, if you're not aware what that is, it's endpoint detection and response. So effectively, it gives you more reporting, mitigation and investigation tools on threats that are detected. And the idea behind that is, if your endpoint solution, a security solution, detects a threat, you're then able to go into the system and make sure that actually it is eliminated. You're able to see what external sources have been contacted, but what internal resources have been touched as well. So cyber insurance companies are expecting that kind of thing in place now as well. And your bog standard antivirus isn't really going to cut it. The same goes for ransomware protection. They're expecting you to have an endpoint security product that is capable of detecting and blocking ransomware. And we're not talking Windows Defender, because while they say they can detect ransomware, your machine has to be online to do it. And the last test I did, it didn't pick. I think it picked up 4 out of 25 of them not using the know before tester. So your endpoint solution needs to be decent in order to pass the cyber insurance requirements. And that rolls nicely onto Cyber Essentials, because if you have the Cyber Essentials certification, especially the Plus, then you've ticked all the boxes that a cyber insurance company is going to want you to do. And also worth mentioning that Cyber Essentials actually comes with cyber insurance up to £10 million. So if you don't already have cyber insurance and you don't have Cyber Essentials, you can do 2 birds with 1 stone effectively.
Yeah, and it's worth saying that kind of need for Cyber Essentials Plus, we're seeing universally across the board. It used to be something that, to work with government agencies, MOD, you had to have frameworks like CCS, Crown Commercial Services, would often require it. But now we're seeing that requirement come from across the the spectrum, medical organizations, through pharma companies, even manufacturing companies being required to have it, and all of their supply chain required to have it. So it's not something that people can dodge anymore, and that is quite a stringent level of testing that's required. And you mentioned about like antiviruses and things like that. Like, it's even down to mail protection. Like, so many people rely on 365's mail protection, which ultimately you might as well have a chocolate fire guard. You're not gonna protect your business with something that's, ultimately free out of the box. Yeah, there's always better products, and ultimately you have to always play that game of, is it worth spending the money to protect your business now? And you know, I have a lot of personal experience in this, which is why I'm really passionate about it. Which is, when it goes wrong, it's very, very expensive to fix. And we're not just talking about the £10 it costs to replace the bit of kit that's broken. We're talking about the staffing costs, loss of business, damage of reputation. It all stacks up, and that time, a very small problem can be a very big expense. Down to someone, literally running a single bit of ransomware on your system can be a huge expense. So having cyber insurance that's going to protect you against that is great, but the cyber insurance will only ever pay out if you've done the right things in the lead up to that. And we've seen that so many times where organizations have gone, yeah, I've got cyber protection, so yeah, don't need to worry about those tools, do I? Well, of course you do, because those tools enforce what that insurance says you're doing. The insurance is never going to pay out on when you some case where you go, yeah, well, I have cyber insurance, I have no ransomware protection, and we ran ransomware on our system. Well, that's your problem. That's not the cyber insurance company's problem. And I suppose to dovetail into that, and obviously, Maciej, you can feel free to jump in. Is that when you have that cyber insurance piece in place, there's often a case of whatever happens has to be driven by that cyber insurance company. So, in a case of a ransomware and outbreak, something going wrong, you have to kind of pull the brakes and go, well, we know we've got ransomware, but I need to look at the insurance company first and say, what should I be doing? Because the minute you go against their guidelines is a reason for them not to pay out on it. And suddenly you end up in a position where you are carrying the brunt of the costs, or you're going to court to argue with them why you shouldn't be carrying the brunt of the costs when you have protection in place. So it is a balancing act and something you'll be very careful of. Maciej, I'll let you jump in. Sorry.
And also, I mean, well, because we, as a company, we've been working with many precursors which were supplying those, Cyber Essential Plus, and as you said, James, lots of companies now require that to pass the accreditation. What also, I mean, I can say that Cyber Essential or Cyber Essential Plus, it's sort of like it opens the eyes within the company what needs to be done, and it's good because the way it works, obviously, there are lots of questions that needs to be answered, and then which part of the business is not covered, or which part of the business needs to be patched with the right tools. And there are, like Adam, like you said, there are lots of things about right policies in place, right firewalls in place, making sure that people are using strong passwords, just making sure that there's a right protection and on the emails and stuff like that. So it's a good thing for organization to have as a requirement, because it is essentially opening in the eyes what needs to be patched and what holes are within the organization. Yeah.
It's a great visibility tool, isn't it? Just picking up on what you just said there. If you have a Cyber Essentials audit and they say, "Oh, do you know what? You need to do this, 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 and this." You as a business, you're like, okay, well, that's something I didn't know about before. I think I'm right in saying that one of the stats we've used before is if you've got everything in place to pass your Cyber Essentials, you're 80% less likely to be hit by a cyber threat, a cyber attack, because the prerequisites of Cyber Essentials mean you've got your firewalls in place, you've got your antivirus, anti-ransomware in place, your MDM, your policies, your strong passwords, all of that kind of thing, and crucially, multi-factor authentication. Which, if anyone has seen any video that I'm on, I always use the opportunity to mention it at least once, because I don't see why you wouldn't have multi-factor authentication. It's just such a brilliant tool, and it stops 99% of the phishing attacks that we're seeing. So
I think I need a button that just for when you get triggered by people not mentioning MFA, and we'll just put that triggered. But no, I completely get what you're saying. MFA, two-factor authentication. You're stupid if you don't have it. I don't mind saying that. Like, for most businesses, some form of 2FA or MFA tool is free and included with what you're already paying for. the excuse of my users find it difficult is not an excuse anymore. That is laziness, and that's gonna hurt you. Like, let's be honest, we all use two-factor authentication for our banks. We all use two-factor authentication for other products. So why should we not use it in the office? And yes, with conditional access, you can be, flexible about, well, if they're in the office, they're behind your firewall, they're doing certain things. Yes, you can say, okay, well, we'll take those requirements away, but that doesn't mean that the network behind your firewall in your office isn't going to get compromised and someone's not going to use that for attack. So you've always got to be balancing those risks. You can't just throw it out the window. But yeah, it's a must. It's a must.
Exactly. And again, in today's world, people, and members of organizations are not only, so obviously with those features you can whitelist the IPs, but the thing is, like, in the world that we're living now, I'd say probably majority of us from time to time accessing emails outside of working hours, or log into Office 365, from your cousin's computer or somewhere else just to quickly check emails. We don't live in the times that you only check emails while you're at the office. It's simple as this. That's why at least two-factor authentication, it's important. It's like additional log. Although again, Adam, I'll get back to what you said. Watching your webinar, it's obviously not something that can guarantee that someone cannot log into, or steal the credentials. Again, we've seen that, but again, it's just an additional log. So for someone who's not very, I'd say, technical, or who doesn't know how to hack into the system, or how to steal credentials, it's just additional log. So yeah, why would you leave the keys in a car? At least you can take the keys with you, and at least you can lock the car. I mean, yeah.
Well, anyone can nick your keys. You could be pickpocketed, couldn't you? It's someone can steal your keys, and that's it. They're away. It's like I say, multi-factor authentication. It stops 99% of attacks. And when you say about the trusted locations, I mean, fine. Yes, of course, you can set up your conditional access rules to allow certain trusted locations. But gone are the days where everyone has a desktop on a desk in an office. Everyone sits behind a firewall, potentially, I guess, an on-premise server with your Exchange or whatever email provider you have. Gone are those days, especially after COVID. Everyone has a laptop and everyone works from, I've done work on a train before, and I'm sure you two have as well. You do it, don't you? You hotspot to your phone and you check your emails. So it's just I know multi-factor authentication can be annoying, but once you get your head around that, it's a must. It really is.
Exactly, and I think we can all agree. I mean, I'll try to say the metaphor here. I mean, it's better to have a right tool in place, and it's like it's good for the companies to make sure that the fire extinguisher are in place rather than running outside of the building and fighting with the fire. It's
yeah, get the locks in place first, rather than dealing with the fire afterwards. Absolutely get it. Yeah.
And I think it's a good way to look at it, I suppose, to kind of bring this section to an end, is that everything you do, you want to look at it as going, well, all we're doing is covering one side of this, one facet. You need to think about all of these things we're talking about are pieces of a much bigger puzzle. But all you need is one piece to be missing, and you haven't got a full picture. And that's what it comes down to. And you've just got to constantly be looking at going, well, all of these risks, there's the solutions that cover this. There's things that come outside of IT, like insurances that fold in from the outside. They give you your border. Let's make sure that you've got all those pieces in place. And we're never going to have all the answers, and you're never going to have all the answers. But we can all work together to find that. And I suppose if you're listening to this or watching this, and you're going, actually, I'm not sure that I've got that full stack security in place, just reach out. We're not salespeople. We're here to talk about the real world, and we're here to ultimately, hopefully, walk you down a path that gives you the right solutions for your organization. So if you want to have a conversation, do reach out off the back of this, and we'll go from there. What I wanted to talk about now was I want to talk about remote desktop services, something that ultimately is an archaic system. And obviously, for those of you who aren't aware, Microsoft are doing what they can to move people away from the RDS world of the past of having terminal servers and all of this with tools like Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. And I think what I wanted to have a conversation on now was how we see that working in the real world? Because I'm sure that all of us have used Citrix or RDS or something in the past, and ultimately there's many businesses that are wedded to that approach. And I suppose how they get away from that into this kind of modern approach, dumping some of the challenges that maybe you have for the RDS environment.
Yeah, I mean, look, RDS, an on-premise RDS environment, it still has its place in certain scenarios. But I mean, Microsoft, and it's not just with RDS systems, anything on-premise really, as we're all aware, Microsoft are pushing everyone to 365, to Azure. Um, and the key offering really, it used to be called Windows Virtual Desktop, but Azure Virtual Desktop is effectively their replacement for an on-premise RDS. And I mean, I won't go into the numbers specifically on this session, but when you look at the costs side by side, from having to procure your RDS session host servers, so your physical, tin, your user access cows, your RDS cows, your Windows licensing, all of this kind of stuff. You're actually, if you compare it to how much a comparable AVD environment would cost you, you're looking about half. Now, it is a bit of a difference because you're looking CapEx cost versus your OpEx. So CapEx would obviously be your RDS environments. You've got your big bang. You're paying what, 70, 80 grand for your 5 years worth of usage. Whereas Azure Virtual Desktop with a virtual firewall in the front of it may cost you £400 or £500 a month. And if you balance it out, the cost of an Azure Virtual Desktop environment, it does work out cheaper in the long run. Plus, you've got your additional benefits where you don't have to maintain any real hardware or anything really, as it's all done by Microsoft.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what I was going to say was that yes, RDS has a place, and that's in the museum. That's what I was going to say, because like gone are the days where you talk about two-factor authentication. Like, how difficult is 2FA to implement onto RDS? How difficult is smart card access to implement on RDS? Yes, Citrix dealt with some of those challenges, but also introduced a hell of a lot more pain that no one wants to talk about anymore. I think ultimately, with things like Windows 365, the ability to deliver desktop level experiences with even graphical based uplift, we've seen, 8K videos running perfectly in a streamed environment from Azure, from AVD. Those kind of things don't happen overnight, and I think that people maybe have forgotten that RDS maybe isn't the way to work. I don't know what experience you've had, Maciej, of RDS that you want to. We could maybe just bash on it for the next 10 minutes, and then we'll all go home happy.
Yeah, I mean, in modern world, obviously, what happens as the time evolves and technology evolves, obviously, RDS or RDP, 5-10 years ago, was a solution. Now the thing is, obviously, as we know, most organizations are, for example, on Teams. Trying to use Teams in remote desktop, or any sort of heavy applications. It's just not ideal solution, and also the security side of remote desktop. Obviously, if again right tools are not in place, which for instance Azure, you're setting up those. So everything needs to be set up in the right sort of order to make sure, and it's much easier to make a mistake with normal RDS. Just for the fact that it's just a bit old fashioned now.
Yeah.
But again, I'm just an example. I remember, James, when you were and Adam were prepping for the Microsoft events not that long ago. You guys set up the environment, and it was the RDP environment that was hacked pretty much instantly.
Yeah.
So again, it's just those things that people need to think about. It's, and again, we are in a new era, so yeah, let's just think about it, and maybe slowly move organizations to something which is more modern, I'd say.
Yeah, I think there's 2 points, just to expand on a couple of points you mentioned there. If you're using Teams within an RDS environment, as you know, it's not great. But the beauty of Azure Virtual Desktops is they are optimized. And even if you look at the about bit in Teams in an AVD environment, it actually says optimized for AVD. So myself and one of our project engineers, only a couple days ago, I think it was Friday, actually thinking about it, but we
it was
actually
Friday,
did.
yeah.
Was it Friday? Yeah, we were doing test calls from an AVD environment, and it's absolutely fine. It's as if you're sitting at your computer. I think the other thing, and of course, given my background, I was always going to touch on the security aspect of it. If you've got an RDS environment, you're effectively opening up your internal infrastructure to the world. So port 3389, obviously you can change that port, but ultimately you've got an RDP port open to the world. Sure, you can mitigate that by saying, well, okay, we're not going to open it to the world if you have to connect to a VPN to access it, but that's just adding like kind of extra steps into the chain. It's going to become more difficult for your users. Also, the slowness of it, whereas obviously if it's in Azure, the speed is just, I mean, if you ever do a speed test from a VM in Azure, it's just insane. It's something like 2 gig down, 1 gig up, something silly like that. And with the multi-factor authentication, again, if anyone watching this has ever tried getting it working on an RDS system, it is possible, but you've got to deploy an NPS server, you've got to then deploy another tool to it, and then just trying to get that working, it's really not easy. Whereas with Azure Virtual Desktops, all you need is conditional access. You set up a conditional access rule to require MFA for AVD. That's it. Obviously then you're going to want your firewall in front of that, but that's just, you want your firewall in front of anything really that's open to the internet. But realistically, I mean, not just cost benefits, but security benefits. As I say, he's over RDS is just incalculable, really.
And the big thing that we haven't mentioned is scalability. So,
Yeah.
You're talking about that one day that you go, we're going to take 50 temps on for, maybe it's for Christmas, okay, well, we're going to ramp up, because we always get busy over Christmas. If you have a terminal server environment, you're buying servers or building VMs, buying Windows licenses that maybe you'll spin up, develop, design, implement into the structure, add to your broker for maybe 2 months. But if you're talking about AVD and scale sets, we're just saying we'll scale up. Just give me the performance I need for the number of users that are using the platform, and when I'm not using it, scale it back down. That flexibility requires no input from IT after it's been configured, and ultimately it requires no maintenance because it's doing it itself, which I think is massively important to think about. Which is, if you're listening to this and you're in a role at the moment, you're an engineer, you're a manager running a department with RDS, how much maintenance does your RDS environment actually take? How much do you want it to take? Why you're not an AVD? That would be the conversation that I would be having, because while the cloud is a big scary place if you don't price things properly and scale things in the correct way and you choose the wrong models, done correctly, as Adam mentioned at the top, it's kind of super easy to get it for an affordable price, cheaper than your operational spend would have been, and get you all the features that you can't get on premise.
You've got your, as you say, you've got your scale sets, haven't you? So what you would generally do is you'd have maybe one session host running 24/7, just in case, and it happens. You've got your head of finance that wants to log in at 1 o'clock in the morning to run payroll or whatever, but that ability will be there. But you'd have another 5 session hosts, depending on obviously how many users you want to support, but they would only fire up as and when your sessions get to a certain point. So you get to say 20 sessions, and like a third host would open up, and the whole point of that is you're only running what you need to. Sure, you've got residual costs like your storage, but in terms of VM running costs, you're only really paying for what you're using, and that's something that you don't really get with RDS. Is you have to, as James said, you have to have your session hosts up and running and maintained, and you've got to do your periodical maintenance on them. With AVD, it's once it's configured, it's kind of a set it and forget it.
Exactly.
And now also I've noticed since I've joined Plant that there's a tendency now that many businesses, medium-sized businesses or big businesses are actually moving towards Azure rather than keep infrastructure in house, and I think that's just that future proof. Just looking at the bigger picture. Yeah, I think we slowly moving out of the times where there's this huge infrastructure in the building, loads of servers, loads of dusty servers, a cabinet full of equipment which is sometimes decommissioned and still there. It's just much easier. And what you said, James and Adam, that scalability within Azure, it's just a process when it's properly managed. It's just, yeah, you need more resources, you add more resources. You need less resources, you're decreasing those resources.
Yeah.
And you can do within a space of time when needed, or when required. So yeah, that's just the main bit that I want to say. I've noticed, for last 3-4 months, this tendency for businesses to be keen on being moved to Azure, just using newer technology.
And I think the other thing's worth. I know we're expanding from Azure Virtual Desktops here. We're talking about Azure in general, but you've got other things to consider there, then, haven't you? Because if you're maintaining a server cabinet full of servers, how much is that costing you in electricity? You've got to pay for your aircon as well. You've got to pay for effectively the security of that space, but you've also got your green costs as well. So generally, and James, feel free to correct me here, but Microsoft's data center are carbon negative, not just carbon neutral. So the environmental impact of moving to Azure, it's greener than running your servers on site. So there's other little things like that as well. And also, I mentioned the physical security. If your building gets broken into in a weekend, that you could have your physical servers ripped out. It's happened, and it does happen. Whereas I don't think anyone even really knows the locations of Microsoft's data centers. So good luck getting into one.
Yeah, I think that's it. Ultimately, there's a much bigger conversation to be had about the move to the cloud. There obviously is people that are concerned about it, and I think the ultimate thing to say is, if there is concerns, come and speak to us, and we can help you put those concerns to bed, or tell you why maybe the information you have is not correct, or show you where the correct answers are. Ultimately, a lot of these questions Microsoft answer. You think about things like security compliance, all those kind of things. They've got NIST certifications. They do all the HIPAA certifications. They do all the things that, let's be honest, your data center can never do. If you're running that in your office, in a office block in Basingstoke, you're never going to hit the same level of protection that Microsoft have got, because you don't have the money to do so. But there's a much bigger conversation to have there. I think if you want to have that conversation, do feel free to reach out, and we can go through all that, and we can hopefully help you find the right solution for you. So that brings to a close the first inaugural Talking Heads from Planet IT. There will be many more of these. There'll probably be many more outtakes as well that we can't show you, but one day we might show you. I want to thank Adam and Maciej for joining me today on this, and obviously for testing the water on this format for us. If you do have comments, things you'd like to see, obviously all this is on social media, so put your comments, your thoughts on it, or you can email them to architecture@planet-it.net, and one of us will read them. But thank you very much for your time. So nice to have you, and we'll see you on the next one.
Smash that like button.